Hello, everyone. My name is Eva Yankovic. I have a great pleasure to be here today with my colleague Elaine Flores and present to you all about the In Our Hands program, which is a brand new cooperative entrepreneurship program for newcomers to Canada. So I'm just going to pull up my screen here to share. All right, there we go. So we're excited to present to you all the In Our Hands program. This is a cooperative entrepreneurship or co-opreneurship program for newcomers to Canada. And it's a partnership program that spans organizations in BC and Alberta. So we're excited to share with you this program as part of an ongoing series highlighting collaboration across the Rockies and demonstrating opportunities that can come from greater cooperation among cooperatives and other great organizations with aligned values and purpose. So yes, as I mentioned, I'm Eva Yankovic. I'm the Co-op Education and Research Manager at BC and Alberta Cooperative Association. And here with me is Elaine Flores. Do you want to introduce yourself briefly, Elaine?
Yes, sure. Thanks, Eva. So hi, everybody. My name is Elaine. I work as the Research and Evaluations Coordinator at the Rural Development Network.
Thanks, Elaine. And we're here to talk to you today about the In Our Hands project. So Elaine, do you want to tell us a little bit about the background of the project?
Again. So yeah, the need for the project. So the need is based on the following evidence that regardless of prior education and qualifications, immigrants to Canada continue to experience high rates of underemployment and unemployment and face difficulty in starting small businesses. That's from navigating business development process to accessing capital and human resources needed to start a business. And some of the reasons for this include a lack of credentials and experience gained in their home country, language and communication barriers, a lack of Canadian experience, and a lack of employment and/or business connections in a new country. And these are even amplified in rural areas or communities by additional challenges that include lack of settlement support or culturally informed services, transportation and rural broadband, language communication barriers, especially in rural areas where they may be only a small number of immigrants who speak the same language in the community. And social inclusion is often cited as a challenge for newcomers settling in rural areas where they may be perceived as an outsider and face instances of racism and discrimination.
So we saw an opportunity to apply the cooperative model to meet some of the needs of newcomers to Canada. So the opportunity we saw was that organizing through worker or producer cooperatives could provide newcomers with improved access to employment, financial and business opportunities by coming together to meet some of these business challenges that many of them face as individuals. So this is one of the benefits of the cooperative model is the ability to bring people together to meet a common need through a collective enterprise. And then cooperatives can also offer newcomers opportunities to directly participate in the management and governance of their own workplaces as co-owners, which addresses some of the inequities that Elaine mentioned around the inequitable wages that newcomers are often faced with, and also different challenges in terms of participation in governance because of language barriers or various kinds of discrimination. So our proposed solution that In Our Hands kind of came out of was to develop a comprehensive set of resources, services, and network supports connected through a community platform to help immigrant co-opreneurship learn about the cooperative model and co-op development process, connect with other entrepreneurs and experienced mentors, start successful cooperative businesses, and grow sustainably within a supportive ecosystem. So this is going beyond just the idea of like a business incubator for newcomers, but also really providing an ecosystem of support services, educational and professional development supports as well, to really help newcomers enter into the cooperative ecosystem and access all the available support. Elaine, do you want to tell us a bit about the approach?
Yeah, so our approach, these practices we do in existing programs we have at RDN, and in this project we are undertaking with BCCA and another partner, WEC. So our approach is we aim to embrace inclusivity in the design of the project by centering the lived experiences of immigrant entrepreneurs. This involves meeting with newcomers to understand what they identify as being the biggest challenges or opportunities. Engagement with the community is important as their insights are critical in developing the project. Identify community champions, as it is crucial to understand local dynamics. And it's important to have working people or working with folks who have established trusting relationships with locals. And lastly, applying a rural lens to ensure that the project is tailored to the community's unique needs, rather than copying a similar approach from an urban center that may not work in a rural setting.
Thank you, Elaine. And one thing that I guess we forgot to add is that the team behind In Our Hands also have lived experience as newcomers, as entrepreneurs as well. So really, it's kind of a perfect fit for this project. So we want to share with you a little bit about our project partners. This project was developed over the course of 2 years. So we did some initial engagement 2 years ago with the Women's Economic Council. And since then, the project partnership team has grown at the speed of trust, which is a phrase that I quite like. So growing from the concept and identifying the right partners has been very important for this project. So I'd like to share a little bit about our project partners. So sharing first about Rural Development Network.
Yeah, so RDN, or Rural Development Network, is a nonprofit organization, and we are based in Edmonton, Alberta. It all started in 2009 when Alberta's 21 public post-secondary institutions came together to access the Rural Alberta Development Fund that was distributed to seed grassroots projects across Alberta. Since then, RDN has grown into a key resource for rural communities to work together on issues that are generally underaddressed. Our organization began as the ARDN, so it stands for Alberta Rural Development Network, but in 2020, we expanded to a national organization and rebranded as the Rural Development Network. While much of our focus is still in Alberta, this expansion has allowed us to provide our resources and services to communities across rural Canada that face similar challenges to the ones here in Alberta. So our work involves creating innovative tools and resources, providing expertise and capacity where needed, supporting communities access funding, and advocate for rural issues. Our current executive board is comprised of 5 Alberta post-secondary institutions. And on the next slide, you can see our key initiatives. Here are some of them. We are dedicated to supporting communities and addressing their needs for things like developing affordable housing through our sustainable housing initiative, preventing and addressing homelessness, working to improve rural health and wellness, increase transportation options, and support local agri-food initiatives. As one of our core programs, the Rural Immigration Initiative, which I am part of, was launched in 2019 in response to emerging needs from rural communities, as well as new programs in place to encourage immigration to rural and remote areas. Our vision under our initiative is to help rural communities by ensuring they have increased capacity to support the settlement and integration of immigrants and refugees while fostering more welcoming communities. So in this initiative, we work with community service providers, newcomers, settlement agencies, ethnocultural groups, government representatives, and various other stakeholders. Our work includes conducting needs assessments with communities, developing and delivering training, and engaging with rural newcomers to understand their experiences. So on the next slide, here is a recent example of some of our work in a project. It's a project in the community of Altario in East Central Alberta, a community of only about 40 people that aim to support immigrant entrepreneurs in the community. So recently, farmers in the area have been attracting newcomers to live and work in that community, the majority of which have arrived through the temporary foreign worker program, but many families have since received permanent residency. The main challenges of the community are that the immigrant women mostly stayed home because there were no economic opportunities for them in the community. And newcomer families would often stay for a couple of years and then they moved to a different city. So, but a small group of women expressed interest in starting their own business in Ontario, and the local school principal reached out to RDN to explore ways that the community could support the immigrant entrepreneurs in the small hamlet. So the goal of the project was to support the women in starting and growing their businesses, explore opportunities to establish a new community building for local entrepreneurs. So the approach was to conduct community consultations, environmental scan, and surveys to improve the understanding of the economic and social well-being of not only people in Ontario, but also two other hamlets in East Central Alberta, the Kiremu and Compere, and that actually is the acronym, the KAC is the acronym for the three communities. So the image that you see here was the final result of the project, which is a vision board representing what the communities envision for their communities over the next 5 years. Some of the highlights were to attract more people, especially young families, to settle in their communities, to have a schoolhouse, which will be their micro business hub. So that's in this kind of left area there. And then civic enhancements to have more gatherings and community involvement. And in this picture, there are Ukraine, because we engaged with Ukrainian women. So there are Ukrainian language in that drawing there. So because of the existing relationship with the community members in Ontario, Ontario will be one of the rural communities where we will pilot the Co-ops 101 training course for this project.
Thank you, Elaine. As you can see, RDN is a fantastic partner in this initiative. And other than RDN, we also are partnered with the Women's Economic Council, which is a national nonprofit organization advocating for women-centered community economic development in Canada. So in this initial pilot stage of the In Our Hands project, we'll really be focused on applying the lens for women's cooperative entrepreneurship and the rural lens as well. So the Women's Economic Council has experience serving newcomer women across Canada through programs like Her Own Boss and Her Mentors, which we're going to kind of weave into the In Our Hands project as well. And finally, to mention our funders who recently have funded the development of the In Our Hands program is the World Education Services Mariam Asefa Fund, which seeks to catalyze economic inclusion, opportunities, and mobility in support of immigrants and refugees in the US and Canada. So as you can see, we've found a very great group of partners and a funder that's very aligned with the goals of the project. As well as through that fund, we're able to access a strong partnership network that includes all sorts of different newcomer serving organizations and likewise various entrepreneurship and business support programs. So we're hoping that this project can connect the newcomer cooperatives that come out of it to a wider network of support and services. So finally, to leave off on a note about how newcomer cooperatives will bring opportunities for all, including hopefully the whole co-op sector here in BC and Alberta. So firstly, in terms of individual development, we already mentioned some ways in which being part of cooperative development can be a way for individual newcomers to integrate better into their new communities, while also developing autonomy in their workplaces, secure work and equitable pay, professional and career development opportunities, and a sense of ownership and agency in the work that they do, and as well as a feeling of belonging, helping them to feel more integrated into their new community. In terms of community development, newcomer cooperatives will also be local businesses which will be able to host local jobs, will provide economic security for individuals and families, will create new community and cultural spaces and will build participatory community around them. And then finally, in terms of the co-op sector, we are very excited about this program because we see a lot of opportunities that resonate across the BC and Alberta co-op sector. So many new cooperatives will form through the In Our Hands program, especially worker and producer cooperatives. We expect to see new cooperative services becoming available. So for those of us who are considering procurement in our cooperatives, where we get our services from, we're looking forward to seeing many new services coming out of this newcomer cooperatives that are forming in the catering, care industry, professional services, etc. Likewise, newcomer cooperatives will be an emerging market for existing cooperative services, such as credit unions, and in any sector, just with the intention of connecting these newcomer cooperatives to existing services in the cooperative sector as part of a business support, but also kind of business development and helping them resource what they need cooperatively. And then finally, the biggest benefit, I think, is kind of bridging this gap that's been difficult to bridge in the co-op sector of inviting diverse energy, ideas, knowledge, and experiences into the co-op sector and kind of revitalizing our movement as well. So thank you very much for listening to our presentation about In Our Hands. If you would like to reach out to us, this is our contact information. And now we open the floor to questions or comments from all of you.
So if there's any questions, there's a few ways to do that. I should probably introduce myself. So my name is John Vandenbeld. I'm the communications coordinator with ACCA and BCCA. Again, thank you so much, Eva and Elaine, for that really great presentation. And I welcome any questions. So you can just chime in, unmute your mic and ask questions of Eva or Elaine. If you feel more comfortable, you can ask questions via the chat window, or you can direct message me so I can engage Eva and Elaine with questions. So any and all of those options are more than acceptable. So I see we have our first question here. Eduardo, go ahead.
One of the things that I'm finding, we have a co-op here in the Comox Valley on Vancouver Island. And one of the biggest challenges that we have is because we're a startup co-op, financing is literally not available for startups, especially not for co-ops. It doesn't seem like, I'm going to talk directly. The Bank of Montreal doesn't recognize a co-op as a valid risk. It's an agriculture co-op, and to them, we have to come up with a huge down payment in order to consider us a customer. That's something that I've been trying to figure out how to overcome, is the lack of financing for co-ops, especially being startups. Do you have any, not suggestions, any experiences on that? Because British Columbia is not really a place for agricultural production co-ops. We are the very first one that was incorporated, and the BC Ministry of Agriculture has recognized us, but not the banking. I'm talking about BMO or Vancity.
Yes, certainly.
Higher risk.
Yeah, financing for cooperatives has historically been a challenge. This is why I think networking is very important for cooperatives. So, for example, most likely credit unions are the best source of potential financing for cooperatives.
Can I interrupt on that one? Because I've tried every single credit union in the province, and none of them wants to talk agriculture. None of them. I've been talking about probably to 10 of them, even the local one. No agriculture, period. So networking has not worked.
I mean, this might be a different conversation for a different kind of topic. I think in terms of how, happy to answer any questions, maybe more related to the In Our Hands program, or what we're trying to do is build a support network for newcomer cooperatives as they're entering into the space, and that's a very diverse forms of support, whether it's connecting them to to creditors that are willing to proposing, even helping them to propose why this is a worthwhile investment to creditors. So, just if we can keep the questions more related to inner hands.
But that's the thing, is financing is being evaded as a topic. Everybody keeps talking about co-ops and how wonderful they are. Without money, nothing happens. That's my question. How can we access
certainly.
money?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think that's a more productive offline discussion, Eduardo. So you can reach out to Eva or myself. Yeah, money is definitely important, and access to capital. But as Eva said, we want to keep the questions a little bit more related to the topic, but we're happy to have that conversation with you, Eduardo, offline. So there's a couple of other questions here in the chat window, and I can just ask Eva and Elaine to respond to them. So the first question is from Mariana, which I think is a really, really good question. I would like to understand better how cooperatives work. New immigrants are not familiar with this concept. Sure.
Yeah. I mean, our presentation was very short, so we couldn't get into really how co-ops work. But cooperatives are basically member-owned and democratically governed businesses. So in maybe a more contextualized example, if we look at the kinds of businesses maybe that some newcomers might be interested in forming, you can maybe think about instead of just being employed at a business, you would actually be a owner of that business and get to make decisions. And instead of kind of your wage being determined by a manager, in general, in worker cooperative contexts, those workers can determine their own wages and their own strategies for management, for example. So I'm just going to look back at the rest of the question. In terms of new immigrants not being familiar with the concept, we've actually heard kind of a mix of things. So in some cases, new immigrants have heard of cooperatives. They may have even participated in cooperatives in their country that they come from, but perhaps that language is not resonating with them, or we're not reaching them very effectively as, for example, BC Cooperative Association, or in general the co-op sector, because we need to tailor our communication better to make the concept of cooperative business more accessible. So that's a lot of what this program tries to do. And we will be producing all of the educational materials and resources in multiple languages as well. And thinking about how we can more effectively approach newcomers and make this idea of cooperatives exciting and accessible and something that they can approach and benefit from. Thanks for the question, Marina.
Great, thanks. So a couple other questions coming in through the chat window, so continue to send those. One is from Debbie. Would you be able to send us the slide deck?
Yes, absolutely.
Good, that's an easy question.
Easy one.
Thank you, Debbie, for that. Next one is from Mark. It's great to hear some of the early signs of success. Are there any unique challenges you've identified or you've encountered rather, or identified in promoting co-ops specifically among newcomers thus far?
Yeah, I think maybe we can build off of the previous question there. So I think some of the biggest challenges, and the reason why we've kind of gone with the strategy that we have, is number one is the outreach and the communication. So most newcomers, when they're coming to Canada, and if any of them are going through employment or business programs, they're not really getting any information about even starting businesses for the most part, but especially not starting cooperative businesses. So in many cases, it's not really even there for them to consider as an option. Other challenges are, of course, I think, as I mentioned, language barriers. So just approaching it from maybe like a bit of a different perspective. So going through community champions or organizations that are well rooted in newcomer communities. Maybe that's not immigrant services. Maybe it's more like local religious organizations or whoever is actually most suited to communicate the benefit of this potential program to them. So we're exploring multiple strategies here. I'll just mention that we're kind of at the very early stages of getting the project set up, and the next stage is the outreach part. So we're currently strategizing and connecting with those partner organizations that can help us to communicate the program through those channels.
Great, thank you. So Stacy's asked a question: how long will the pilot run, and what is the plan or timeline for moving beyond the pilot?
Yeah, I don't know, Elaine, if you want to jump in on this one in terms of project timeline and scope.
Yeah, sure. So our project started this month, February, and is ongoing for 2 years. So that's 2022 to 2024. So yeah, currently we are on the, well, it just started. So we're trying to get consultants for some of the activities in our pilot project. So like getting graphic facilitators for our engagement sessions, getting online education consultants, translation consultants, and those kinds of people would be welcome. Or if you know anybody who are interested to apply for that role, BCCA has a landing page on their website about our project.
Great, thank you, Elaine, for that. So another question we have is from Bob. You mentioned churn as new Canadians often move. Have you seen early results that people stay longer? And does this have any impact on governance management of the cooperatives, since stable leadership is always important?
Great question. I think there's, in general, a lack of research in this area. So as we mentioned, the program is just getting started, and part of what we want to do is collect some follow-up data a few years after groups have gone through the program to actually try to understand these things. You know, how long is it an ongoing business? What kind of impacts has it had for the individual, the community, beyond going through the program? So I think that would be a really interesting thing to track. And then in terms of the question on does it have any impact on governance and management of the cooperatives, since stable leadership is always important. I mean, that is one thing we would very much hope for, is to have that these cooperatives are ongoing, and that we support the individuals that are going through them in achieving aligning their personal goals with the development of this cooperative to ensure that stable group. Because a big problem is in a lot of startup cooperatives, people are not able to pay themselves because it takes a while in any business to get to a point where you are able to pay yourself. So we really want to support them in that early stage business development and connecting with opportunities in the cooperative sector to help them get like clients within the cooperative sector, and support them in such a way that they can meet their personal and needs and aspirations through working in these cooperatives. And hopefully just by being able to do that, that will give some longevity to these projects. But that's a really good suggestion in terms of tracking whether through working in these cooperatives, people actually stay longer in their communities.
Great, thank you for that question.
This questions so far. Thanks.
Yeah, I love to see the engagement. This is fantastic. Keep it coming. This question is for Rural Development Network. So for Elaine, have you identified a rural area in BC where a sustainable housing has started or is in the pipeline?
Hi, Noel. Yeah, thanks for the question. I, however, am working under a different initiative, which is Rural Immigration Initiative, but I am happy to be able to connect you with our Sustainable Housing Initiative. I can ask this question for you to them, And if you could maybe send me a direct message of your email address so I can connect you, and I can answer that question. Thank you.
Great, thank you for that. Debbie has asked a question. Our credit union is piloting a program in partnership with the government of Alberta, working with newcomer professionals to help them attain certifications in Canada. That sounds interesting. This project sounds like something that we could potentially, could align with. Who would we reach out to?
Oh yes, that sounds very, very aligned. Please reach out to myself or Elaine. I'll share both of our contact info in the chat just after, as well as the slide deck. That is one of the things we've identified, of course, in our community engagement was the, not being able to translate certain certifications or enter into that stream of getting certified for things. For newcomers. So that absolutely sounds like something that would be very supportive of these co-operators as they're going through the program.
Okay, so I'm not seeing any other comments or questions in the chat window. Would anyone like to jump in and ask Eva and Elaine a question via traditional just jumping up and opening your mouth?
It's Debbie here, sorry. I'm just wondering, it seems like there is more of an emphasis on the rural for this In Our Hands program. Can you comment on that, Eva?
Not necessarily in the long run. I think in general, the approach that we're taking is to start with rural communities, because what happens most often is that programs get developed in urban communities or in city centers, and then kind of there's an attempt to translate them to the rural context, which often comes with many challenges or is an uninformed approach. So we're going to be piloting both with the rural community in Ontario and in Vancouver, which is where BC Cooperative Association is based.
Okay, thank you, Debbie, for that question. Any other questions for Eva or Elaine?
Yeah, this is Stacy. I joined. I'm part of a refugee sponsorship group, so I wondered if there had been any networking with the major sponsorship agreement holders at all, or reach out to them.
Not yet. That would be very helpful to get to know a little bit more about, if you're familiar with the landscape, where we are in the phase of kind of looking for both outreach partnerships and in general support partnerships. So it would be great to connect and learn more about that.
Yeah, I can send you guys an email with some suggested links. Probably some other folks here know some too.
Yes, that would be very helpful. I mean, we are in the early stages of this project, and just to give a sense of where things are at, I think I shared this link to our landing page. We're going to be kind of putting updates as to where we are in the process. So kind of our next step is doing a call out to entrepreneurs. I mean, they may not even recognize themselves as entrepreneurs yet, but to newcomers that may have ideas for starting businesses or be open to starting cooperative businesses. So we will be looking for support to do that outreach, to share that expression of interest program, which we will do, as well as kind of in general looking for that longer term support network. So yes, please, if you are working at an organization or familiar with any organizations that could be good partners for this project, it would be very grateful to connect with them.
Great. Eduardo has a question. How is an immigrant going to pay for their place into the co-op?
So there are programs that sponsor kind of membership dues. Of course, these newcomers will be forming their own cooperative, so they will get a chance to to determine their own membership structures and pay rates, and most likely will be founders. So that's a little bit different when you're starting a business as a founder. But for example, Van City Credit Union has a loan program for membership fees for cooperatives. So I think I'm not quite sure what the limit is there, but it helps people cover their initial membership fees into co-op. So there's lots of financing options available. We see these co-ops as entering at an early stage. So more being founders of the cooperative and not necessarily yet at the stage of contributing like huge amounts of membership fees upfront.
Great, thank you for that question. All right, so, and Eva mentioned that she put a link in the chat window to the landing page with information on the program, on the In Our Hands program. At the bottom, you might be interested or know someone that's interested. We're looking for a couple different consulting opportunities to help the support and development of the program, and specifically a graphic facilitator, an online education consultant, and we're looking for some technical services as well. So if you or anyone in your network is feels called or compelled to do that kind of work, we'd love to hear from you. It's one great thing about these Zoom meetings is you never know who's in the call, and it sounds like there's a lot of people on the call that would be really good partners and people to engage with. So I encourage you to reach out to Eva or to Elaine offline, and then we can have those conversations and really grow this into something tremendously impactful and significant. And Eva put her email, which is very easy. It's eva@bcca.coop. Very intuitive.
Elaine, perhaps you can share your email too.
Yes. Okay. Are there any other questions, comments, musings, queries around what we heard today? All right. Well, I just gave you 20 minutes of your day back. So I guess you can thank me for that. And thank you very much, Eva and Elaine, for that really wonderful presentation. And thank you everyone for coming and for your questions. Love to see the engagement. We will be sending out a video link of this presentation, and Eva will send out the slide deck. It will also be broadcast on Co-op for All on Vancouver Co-op Radio. So you can listen in on that particular date where it's going to be broadcast. Not exactly sure where it is. I think it's the 21st, but I'll let you know when I share out the video. Any final thoughts, Eva or Elaine?
No, thank you very much, everyone, for attending and sharing both questions and resources and potential opportunities for the program. We're excited to see where it goes, and we'll keep you all updated as to its progress.
Great.
And keep checking back in.
Yes, please do reach out to Elaine or Eva with any questions that you didn't want broadcast in a group of 20 or 25 people. And please continue to be engaged with us. The next speaker series will be on March the 16th. So exactly 1 month from today. So we hope that you're able to make that. Stay tuned to the ACCA and BCCA website for more information. All right. Thanks so much, Eva, Elaine, everyone. Have a wonderful afternoon.
Thank you. Take care.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.